はい、どうも、こんにちは。堀崎隆です。ニューヨークで現代美術の活動をしています。この YouTube は、これ手で持ってるんで、ブレて申し訳ないんですけど、自分のアートの活動の制作している最中のプロセスを、その思った時に思った思いをそのまま記録するために、アーカイブする活動として、行っております。その間に社会的なこととかいろいろ考えるので、そういうものも織り交ぜて話すと、面白いなと思って、基本的には自分自身の活動を忘れてしまうので、それを覚えておくためのトリガーとしてのアーカイブです。一般にパブリックに皆さんに見せる理由は、それでもいろんなヒントとか面白いことに、つながることが僕自身他の人の見てて思うので、それはそれで面白いのかなと思って、やっています。ということで、実は今日は今までずっと日本語だったけど英語でやってみるのも面白いかなと思って、もう一つの理由は多分ですね、日本語で話したくない、すぐに理解されたくないっていう内容をちょっと言っときたいなっていうのがあったので、えso my English is very rusty because the coronavirus the situation is very change the environment, which means that I won't speak English daily basis. More frequently, I speak Japanese with my wife. Although my wife is American, she's under the PhD dissertation. Her art history researcher, Japanese contemporary art and modern and after the World War II. So anyway, so she study and speak Japanese as well. My son, 2 years and a half, he he can, and so he's like a fragment of words and sentence he speaks in Japanese and English right now. But he understands our most of the English and Japanese both. And at home, many times we speak Japanese. So my English is not good. It's very I forgot about the words and such. But anyway, so today is um, it's it's interesting that it's not interesting, more like a serious concern to me, is that by looking at the Japanese situation from far, from the US, United States, like watching YouTube news and TV shows as such, or any online articles and data. So suicidal rates in Japan more and more higher than before. Not to mention that Japanese suicide rate is that the almost number one or two in the worldwide. I think that's a very simple indication that there is an issue, social issues, a huge entire society has an issue. It's not about something that personal issue, and that person is needs to resolve the problem by themselves or just go to see a doctor. I don't think that's the reason why that much the suicidal rate is high. Um, so back to my own things. Um, I have to admit that I have it's not a disease. It's more like mental, emotional, psychological difficulty that I have been having depression, and also recently, I think it's kind of popular right now in Japan too. I noticed that I was diagnosed and checked, in both in Japan and US. I have a ADHD. It's not, to me. It's just a finally there's the name for it. Although that that has been out there everywhere, and it's more like people thought that was part of the characteristics as such. But the difficult part probably anyway. So I didn't know, and now I know I have that, and also it's not funny, but it's funny to me is that that ADHD triggers easily to made me under the depression, and then that depression increased my daily work difficulty. It life. So the way in which you think also affect, and everything thinking negatively and stuff like that. It's not unusual. It's actually more like common. It's the degree of that. Probably everybody is different, and also that's I cannot say specific in detail and correctly, but the inside of the brain, the chemical issue, and in order to connect all the thoughts process, but that hormone, not hormone, what is that name? Off the top of my head, I forgot the name, but the chemical substance cannot come out correctly, so that the lack of that will disconnect the thought process in the brain, then that will triggers the depression, something like that. That means that if you are able to help the substance by the medication, it will help to not to have that depression. Here, finally, this is the main part I want to talk about today. Under that, depression, ADHD, and all the mental unstable or not really healthy situation, I would say that that's a gradation. So I wouldn't say that's unhealthy. If that affect my life, their life, people's life, I think that's not healthy. So you might want to figure out how you can improve that, so that you don't have to have a difficult time in your life, or your partner, your friends. So it's just pretty typical Japanese, and I didn't believe, in a way, I didn't believe that I couldn't face to that. It took good let's say it's like over 15 years. So my wife was had it, and she had it, and she just even said like, well, finally you did, so it's too late, and I don't want to help out. Of course she helps, but she's not happy that finally you do. Anyway, so that helps improving, and my emotional condition is good. Okay, so anyway, get to the point. So in general, there's no answer. If you have a medication, or you are going through some workbook, and how you react, how you think about if something happened, you analyze it, and then trying not to think this way, that way, so that you will not think negatively. So if you improve that, that means that the way in which you analyze or think about things in front of you, like a social issue, political issue, that notion of thought process, notion of how to think changes. That means that probably your answer regarding the issue you face to, or you are interested in, might change. So by reducing and improving and getting healthy, and not so much repressed condition of under the ADHD or the depression, you might create a different artwork because that thought process and the way in which you react to the daily life or social issue changed. And so then your work from the past changes because of that. Then is that like against or affect, not effect, affect my professional practice? I thought that was, and then of course the counselor was, that was a good question. She can or he can answer because it's, and then I thought about that. It's interesting that if you think that's, so this is, I think that right now, if you are mentally healthy and having a good life with kids and wife and family and friends, I think it's much more fun and it's better life and it's happy. Not like a shadow happiness. It's more like a delightful and in-depth thoughts that sharing that difficulty, but in the end it's you are old and you are you feel accomplished something with a family or a partner. And so I think that changing the thought process by probably not easy. It takes a while. Maybe I might spend 2-3 years, but by having the change, also the way in which I see things in front of me changes because of the artwork changes in a good way. Probably the previous something really like dense and feels like really scary and anger or sadness, very sorrow. It just makes you irritative, but in a more like a thoughtful or more even like soulful. That might be gone. But if I think about it, art itself, the after you make, it's that art is not yours. Art is a common public domain in a way. I'm not talking about financial monetary exchange. In order to live a life as a job, devotion, you need to create money, make money to live a life, take care of baby, whatever. But besides that, once the art exists, if I decided this is the artwork, then that is not yours, and the interpretation, the way in which you react, you feel from that is yours. Sometimes very irritative, sometimes very political and straightforward. And there are many different artworks that which is the good things. So hopefully like watching Japan, the people are more not so like needle things. It's very picky and really tiny needle things, rather than like that is like overall think about, people think that way, and then later on you might come back to think about it. Interestingly, I think image stays here, but you don't remember. But that triggers something different occasion. Then let me think about, that was. And I think that effect is the beauty of artwork, whether or not it's contemporary art, craft art, and any arts. So reason why I was talking about medical condition, emotional condition, if that you in general medically called some sort of the disorder, if that disorder change that is no longer that person is artistic and that piece is not art. I think that's wrong, and I think that everybody makes a different artwork, and slightly, not like a completely different personality, I would say, but the changed personality is common things. Probably anyone is always changed phase by phase after the married, after getting got a baby. Before that, like teenager time, the way in which you thought or the way in which you did are different from how you do right now. Same thing in a way. I think by treating that, if that's the issue for you, and then outcome of that, because the thought process changes, the outcome of the artwork, probably that's also the art. And people might be confused if they always look at say my work and then my thought process changed and more healthy for me, but the work is so boring. Maybe it is, but maybe because you remember the past work and then comparing to that, so then you have one pattern of way of thinking about one's work, my work, and that if that's different work, then you don't understand, and you feels like, well, you might want to change so that you can sell more, and that's why that's more like a commercial work. It could be, but maybe the bottom line in the inside of work might be different. Of course, you can't see that instantly. It could take 10 years. I think that's very interesting. I've been thinking about that changes, because right now I don't make art everyday base, more like taking care of 2.5 years baby. And then I use the Play-Doh, 紙粘土みたいな. And making a toy that based on what he wants to have. So he say Spinosaurus and Tyrannosaurus. And then I make not realistic, more like my own version of Tyrannosaurus. But he's happy and he's playing that and every day. So like I make a bulldozer, and I make a bulldozer, and then he just like his own way plays that and then playing the game by himself, and that communication is very interesting. So because of that, my work is also related to that. Just 17 minutes talk too much. I will end it by this. I think I will show last one. So for instance, like the color choice or shape, it's not the focal point, but that is something to do with being with my son at 2.5 years. But it's not about kiddie and young baby thing. More like I interpreted his way of thinking, his answer, and then I look at the Duplo and Legos, very typical pop color, and then that how I can code the color contrast in a way in which I can think about my own Insta bonsai, which is the coming out from Instagram. I think that is very interesting transformation, and so that is attached to the life, which is actually everybody does, even if always painting, say, tree throughout artistic career. That doesn't mean it's all boring, ongoing tree. Maybe subtle change has a very, very in-depth meaning for the artist. If you don't like the tree painting, you don't need to deal with it. But if you like it, you always go back to and think about, what is this? And that might be for certain people are very nice in a way and a hobby, just like going to the baseball game and have fun and drinking beer. I love it. I don't go too often, but and same way, I think that looking at this pattern and thinking about that. But overall, if you go stay back, and then if you think about that was under the coronavirus situation, you think about social issues, and I commented on certain things, changes. I think that might be interesting to see year ago as opposed to 4 years later. My condition of way of thinking changed. I cannot put together in a good conversation, but so that's something I wanted to record it so that I remember how I am going to face to my professional work, artwork from 2020 to later on. I think that is very interesting myself, and hopefully the people coming to see my artwork changes how they perceive that and reinterpret and think about it. Thank you so much. I'm a contemporary artist, Takashi Horisaki from New York City. どうもありがとうございました。